So many happy faces. What's wrong with you? Aren't you afraid of me? You should be, because when we come to the point of talk, you will have to be prepared to ask questions. And we are going to have discussions. And you will have two choices. Either you raise your hand first and volunteer yourself, or I will volunteer you. And when I volunteer you to ask me a question, if you can ask a question, that's great. If you cannot, you have to make a big donation to UTCC. How is that? Deal? Okay. We are going to have a little bit of fun. As you will find out, this is Kamran's Comedy Hour. Oh, no, sorry. That was another program. I forgot. You're supposed to laugh. I'm trying to be funny. Give me a break, okay? Now, we are going to talk about from zero to hero. From zero to hero. Is it a simple, straight path? How do you go from not having much money, not having much education, to have 3 unicorns? Everybody knows what a unicorn is? No. Okay, a high-tech company which goes IPO at valuation over $1 billion. I had 3 of them. Between the 3, they generated over $8 billion in innovation economy from Silicon Valley, but all of them were global companies. But how did I get there? So when I was a child, I had a dream from young age that I have a global role to play. And when I was talking to my friends, to my parents, to my relatives, I would tell them, we should go and do something big. And I was thinking many times in our family gatherings, they're just chit-chatting, having nice social time. I would say, why are you wasting your time? Go and change the world. And they were saying, you're only 8 years old. Shut up, sit down, and have your dinner. But if you think about it, every one of you, if you go back to your childhood, has had a dream. That's your life mission. And many times, as you grow a little bit older, the parents, the society say, you have to do everything our way. Only way for you is to be an engineer, be a doctor, be a lawyer. Heavens forbid if you want to be a musician. Oh no, if you want to be an artist, oh no, not acceptable. If you forget your dream, you could go make a lot of money, become quite famous. In everyone's mind, you could be seen as a very successful person, but deep inside, you know something is missing. And the sooner you reach out to your heart and say, what should I do? And don't be afraid. It's okay to be different. It's actually excellent to be different. You have seen the Apple ads for the crazy ones. Think different. What does all of that mean? All it takes is follow your dreams, follow your heart. So when I was 17, I told my parents, I'm going to go to America. They said, we have never been to America. We don't have any relatives to take care of you. I said, I don't need anything. I will just go there, find a job, and go to university. And they said, but you are not a very good student. My graduation from high school, my GPA was C+. So I started to write to many universities. Everybody said no. Failure, 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 failure. By some strange accident, one university, Ivy League school, University of Pennsylvania, sent me a letter. This was 1972. They said, you have been accepted for the class of 76. They were talking about graduating class. But my English was not so great. I didn't know this. I said, these stupid people want me to wait 4 years to go to their school. No, I threw that away. Universe works in amazing ways. The school year started, and I still didn't have acceptance anywhere, till a small university called Utah State University. Very small school, not famous, not very important. The only school accepted me. So I went there. And it was a very religious school. Utah is a Mormon country, and Mormons have some strict rules, like they don't drink alcohol, they don't smoke, they don't drink coffee, they don't drink tea, many, many restrictions. So I said I'm going to leave there as soon as possible. By pure chance, I ended up to another university in a big city in Utah, Salt Lake City, called University of Utah. This was in 1973, and it was just pure accident, I thought. What I didn't know was University of Utah had 2 huge grants. One was for bioengineering, had the #1 school in bioengineering that developed the Utah artificial heart and artificial arm. And the second one, which was even more important, was they had big grants, and the 2 professors, Ivan Sutherland and Dave Evans, invented computer graphics at University of Utah. And I had no idea, just by pure chance. Imagine how crazy universe is. You say no to Ivy League school, you say yes to a small school, but by pure accident you end up in an amazing school, #1 in computer graphics. And because I had to work, I didn't go to a lot of classes. I worked in lumberyard, and I also worked in engineering school as a janitor. I had to get up early at 6 a.m. to start my cleaning job, because by 8 a.m. when other students came, I didn't want them to know I'm the janitor in the engineering school. Amazingly enough, by pure chance, I didn't know I was suffering from ADD, and that was the reason I wasn't a good student. I didn't like to sit in front of boring professors. So if I didn't have to go to the classroom, I wouldn't get bored, and I wouldn't be kicked out. So my GPA moved up, and I met, pure chance, one of the fathers of computer graphics in mathematics department, who was an amazing, brainy professor, but he was not a good communicator. I went to his class twice. I couldn't understand anything he said. When he would talk, this is the blackboard. He would write something on the blackboard, not look at us, these formulas, and then he would stand up, and he has written a whole 20 formulas. We have no idea what it is, and he would talk like, so, I can't hear you. I went and I sat in front there, and still I couldn't hear. So I never went to his classroom. He was famous that all of these students who took his class, more than half of them would fail. I never went to his class, so I didn't know what a difficult professor is. I just said he's a lousy professor. I didn't even know he was one of the founders of computer graphics. So I went to check my grade. Pure chance, universe aligns, synchronizes the thing. Right at the time I go to check it, he opens the door and he says, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm your student." He said, "How come I've never seen you before?" I said, "No, I came to class, but I have to do work and, 2 jobs, difficult." He said, "How many times you came to my class?" I said, "A few times, quite a few times." He said, "Let's see what grade you got." So we went and checked. There was 1 A+, and that was me. So he said, "Wow, you better come in." He says, "I want you to be my teaching assistant." And he asked me, "How much money you make?" 2 jobs. My total salary was $280 with 2 jobs. I inflated it. I said, around $300. He said, "Be my teaching assistant. I give you $350. I was, wow, this guy is stupid. Why is he giving me so much money? I said, "What class is it?" He said, "Graduate class. You will be teaching master's, PhD in mathematics." I said, "Professor, I'm a kid. I'm 19 years old. How could I be your teaching assistant?" He said, "You want more money? I give you, you be my teaching fellow, I give you $400 per month." I said, no, it's not a matter of negotiation. I'm not qualified. I'm just a kid." He looked at me. He said, "How much do you pay for tuition?" I said, "Around $100 per month." He said, "We'll pay your tuition also." The moment he said that, I said, "I don't care what it is, I will be your teaching fellow." I have no clue what he wants. It's a graduate course, numerical analysis, 500 level. I'm just a sophomore. And my job was, he would go and give a lecture, very advanced lecture to master's, PhD, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Nobody understood what he says. Tuesday, I would go as a teaching assistant. I would say, "What is your problem? What's your question?" Everybody says, "This is my question, my question." I don't know the answer. I say, "Okay," I write it down. Then I go meet with him on Wednesday, get the answers. Then I meet on Thursday and give the answers. I was translator because he was very shy. He didn't want to talk to students. So that was my job. I was getting $400 cash plus free tuition, scholarship. And the best part of it was, by age 20, I had 2 bachelor degrees. One in mathematics, one in computer science. Because I didn't have to work in lumberyard. I didn't have to be janitor. All the things were paid. I only worked 2 hours on Tuesday and 2 hours on Thursday. Very easy life. So I was extremely happy. Then, by this time, I started to study. I had seen pictures of very nice computer-generated things in the hallway. Slowly, I started to say, "What are these?" And it's computer graphics. That sounds interesting. I didn't know all the gods of computer graphics were studying for master's program. And I said, I should apply for master's degree in computer graphics. So I went to computer science department to apply, and they said, "No, because you got your bachelor's in here, we like variety. We should have somebody else from another university come here. We encourage you. You have great grades. You have good scholarship. Go to another university." I said, no. I really like this. They said, "No, not possible. We cannot allow that." So I was very unhappy. I went to Professor Barnhill. I didn't know he's one of the fathers of computer graphics. I said, "You know what? They are not accepting me there." He says, "Who said that?" I said, "So-and-so." He wrote a note. He says, "Go and give it to him." I went, and I became accepted to master's degree in computer graphics, where Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, did his bachelor's degree. Ed Catmull, the founder of Pixar, the Pixar movies, did his PhD. John Warnock, founder of Adobe, CEO of Adobe, god of computer graphics for Macs. Jim Blinn, the god of graphics at Caltech for the Mars project. And many, many other people, including Jim Clark, who played a big role in my life later on. He was founder of Silicon Graphics and later on chairman of Netscape, the first big internet company that came out. Now, all of these were really brainy people, very smart, not like me. I was just a lucky guy who didn't know much, and circumstances were created because I followed my heart. So when I got my master's, I could go and work anywhere. And of all the offers that was given to me, I selected HP, Hewlett-Packard, in Palo Alto. Not because their salary was higher. IBM salary was much higher. Texas Instruments salary was much higher. They gave me the lowest offer, but they really asked so many different questions. Such a difficult interview, and everybody in our team was smarter than me. So I said, this is a place I can learn a lot. If I went to IBM, if I went to TI, they show me so much respect, I cannot learn so much. Here, they showed me no respect. I remember one of my co-workers, Beatrice Infante, amazing lady. Later on, she was my co-founder in one of my companies. With so much pride, I went to her and said, you know, I got my bachelor's degree, 2 bachelor's degrees when I was 20 years old. She said, I got my master's degree from Caltech at age 19. Why were you so slow? I said, I can learn from these people. They are so much smarter than me. So I told my wife, we are going to California, Silicon Valley, and everything will be great. So I went to work at HP. I was the youngest member. The group were 4 other engineers in our group, all of them ladies, all of them smarter than me, much more capable than me. And I learned how it feels to be a member of minority. I felt discriminated. Nobody paid any attention to me. I had to work so hard to be taken seriously. I worked very hard. I tried to keep up with them. I got a huge raise after 6 months, big raise. You would think everything is great, but I started to look at my abilities versus all of these amazing engineers. They were much smarter, much more capable than me. And I said, I'm not scholarly type. Maybe I should try management, because the code, software code I wrote was not so good. I mean, it worked, but I wasn't really great. So I went to my boss, and I said, I want to be a manager. He said, you have just been hired 6 months ago. You're a kid. How could you be a manager? I said, why not? You know, always question, why not? He said, I had to wait 5, 6 years before I became a manager. I said, well, let me talk to your boss. So I made time, went to talk to his boss, and I said, I'd like to be a manager. And he said, for me, I had to wait 6, 7 years at the beginning, then another 5, 7 years for the next. You have to be patient. I said, God, each level is 5, 6, 7 years. President HP must be 200 years old. How could that be possible? So this was before internet, no websites. I was at corporate headquarters, corporate engineering labs. So I went to administration, got a brochure, and I looked at top management of HP. They all look like old men who were over 100 years old. There was one person who looked young. His name was Doug Chance. He was senior vice president, and he looked like he was 45 years old. I said, that's my answer. I have to find the secret, how he moved up, being so young. So what do? I had the company phone directory, check Doug Chance, called him up. This assistant answers the phone, Mr. Doug Chance's office. I said, my name is Kamran Elahian, and I'd like to have a meeting with Mr. Doug Chance. And she said, does he know you? I said, no. She said, what is this about? I said, it's personal. She said, okay, I will talk with him. If he's interested, we'll get back. I waited 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Failure, nobody likes me, nobody wants to call me. So, what do? Call again. And again. And again. And again. Every 3-4 days, very politely, I call, same conversation. This is Kamran Elahian. No, he doesn't know me. I cannot tell you. It's personal discussion. Once or twice a week, this is our, tradition. I know what she's going to say. She knows what I'm going to say. We know each other very well, but I cannot go through. After a couple months, I said, this is not working. I need a disruption. I need a new way to get to see him. So, what did I do? Any ideas? Did I give up? Usually when you fail, you have to give up, right? But there is no failure when you follow your heart. Everything is learning. So, I went to the corporate headquarters, administration, checked out all the marketing material. It said, HP is an innovative company, and as an innovative company, we do management by walking around. I said, that's true. My first day, pure chance. I went to corporate cafeteria. This guy came and sat next to me, looked very familiar. I looked. That was Bill Hewlett. And I said, holy mackerel. The founder, president of the company is sitting next to me. So the management did walk around. You just had to be lucky as they're walking around 20, 30,000 employees, they will see you. The other thing was, oh, welcome everyone. We got so many young people in here. Welcome. So what I told everybody else is you have to be prepared to ask some difficult questions. You either volunteer yourselves or I will come to you and I volunteer you. And you can ask me a difficult question or you have to make a big donation to UTCC. You all understand? Anybody who didn't understand, raise your hand. Okay. So, the second part of marketing material for HP was open door policy. I said, this is not being practiced. I tried so long. 2 months, every week, couple times, I called the senior vice president. It's not open door. So I called one last time. Same thing. Hello, I want to talk to Doc Chance. No, he doesn't know me. It's personal. And she said, I will talk with him. If he's interested, we'll get back to you. I said, no. Give him a message that HP corporate philosophy of open door policy is bullshit and does not get practiced by senior vice president. And I hung up. 2 minutes later, the phone rings. Hello, this is Doc Chance. I understand you want to talk with me. I said, no, I want to meet with you. He says, okay. How about next week? He set up a time. I go to meet with him. And very nice guy. So I tell him, I looked at corporate brochure. Everybody is 200 years old. You are the only one who looks young. I want to know what is your secret. He says, the fact that you are sitting here in my office after 6 months, only 6 months, you get appointment with me, it says you already know the secret. You don't need any. You don't need any advice from me. I said, oh, thank you. So you agreed to be my mentor to help me learn other secrets. And I will not bother you every day, but once every few months, I will come for you for advice. He says, sure, I like you. I will be happy to do that. So I knew I have a big supporter, senior vice president of the company. So after another 6 months or so, I was looking at, so somehow magically after that, HP kept sending me to management courses. I was getting invited, all paid by HP, to go and take these courses on leadership, management, whatever. It was really nice. Life was good. So I was looking for an angle, something that I could have a major impact on HP. So as I was looking around, we had about 30,000 or so employees, lots of engineers, maybe even more than 30,000. And I was looking around. A lot of our engineers were software engineers, hardware engineers, quality engineers, manufacturing engineers. We only had 50, less than 50 chip engineers. And I was thinking, why? Why is it so difficult to design a chip? I did some research in the whole world. In 1979, there were less than 1,000 chip engineers in the whole world. And that was unusual to me. So I went and I talked to my boss, my boss's boss. I said, I want to learn how to become a chip engineer. And I went to Jim Clark, who was a professor at Stanford University, the guy who later on became chairman of Netscape. And I said, Jim, how do I become a chip engineer? He said, it's very difficult, but now 2 professors at Stanford have developed a new method, and you can take their course. Any software engineer or system engineer can be a chip engineer. But you have to pay very expensive tuition, and you have to study very hard. So I went back to my boss's boss. They all say it's very difficult. Went back to the top, and I said, I have an idea. Why do we have so few chip engineers at HP? If we had 1,000 chip engineers, we could design many new chips, and HP could become the most advanced company in the whole world forever. He said, how? I said, you pay my tuition to go to Stanford. Give me, I will work part-time because it's a lot of work, but give me full-time salary. And you can send some people with cameras to record everything. We can reproduce these videotapes. Once we show how my chip worked, we can show it to a lot of other people, train many software engineers, system engineers, to become chip engineers. Everybody is so excited. How could a 25-year-old come up with such a crazy, unusual idea? This could be transformational. They let me work part-time, paid my very expensive tuition, and because I had a very promising idea, they gave me another promotion. Big money. Life is becoming good. So I went to Stanford 1 whole year, learned chip design, designed the chip got fabricated, came back. What happened? I told you I wasn't very good engineer. The chip did not work. So what do? You fail? What, you commit suicide? I went to professors. I said, you told me any software or system engineer can be chip engineer. Why is my chip not working? They said, any good software engineer, you are not so good. So I went to my boss and I said, I have good news and I have bad news. He knows me. He says, what's the bad news? I said, the bad news is the chip is not working. He says, oh my God, I have to fire you. My boss would fire me. All this big problem. This was a high problem. I said, no, hey, wait. There's very good news. He said, what's the good news? I said, you have to look at this in the right way. The reason the chip didn't work, one of the reasons, I didn't say because I was just bad engineer. I said, we designed this chip based on a whole bunch of formulas, theoretical things that professors gave us. We didn't have any tools to do analysis, simulation, test coverage, nothing. We just followed these rules, designed the chip, no logic simulation, no timing analysis, nothing. We just sent it, it came back and said it didn't work. I have a proposal. Why don't, we are HP, we know how to make engineering workstations. I will put a great team of people together. You give me 5 engineers, $500,000 budget. I will go and design a very advanced engineering workstation. Nothing like that exists. This would be a multi-billion-dollar market, and HP can go into a new, innovative economy. He said, what do you think? He said, I'm tired of your bullshit. Every few months you come up with a new idea. I get in more trouble and more trouble. No. I said, if you don't give me this $500,000, I will select the best engineers. We all leave HP. Go start on our company. He said, you are the youngest kid in here. He didn't want to say the most stupid one. He said, you are the youngest one. Nobody will follow you. You want to leave? Leave. So I went and I talked to a whole bunch of engineers, selected 4 of them, the best one. I said, will you join me? We go, and we are such a good engineers. We are so amazing. We will get investors. I had heard there are these people called venture capitalists who are willing to invest in you. I had no idea. I just had heard these things you read on newspapers. I said, why don't you guys join me? They were stupid. They said, sure, if you say so, we come. All of them are geeks, you know. I'm the only one who is business-oriented and management and whatever. So we all go and resign. My boss is very surprised. He gets very angry. How come all these people are leaving? And his boss is not happy either. But the boss of the boss, so I went to Doug Chance. And I said, we are all leaving. I just want you to know I learned a lot from you. If you say I should stay, I will stay. But I think I should leave. He said, you are right. You are too aggressive. You are even more aggressive than I was, and you want to move up so fast. I think HP is the wrong place. We will hold you back. You should leave. But if it didn't work, come back. We love you. We'll hire you again. This was very, very big assurance for me. And we all went to leave. My boss's boss's boss, he liked me for whatever reason. He said, don't leave. We should go and have lunch. So we went to Chinese restaurant to have lunch. And he started to give me a lot of statistics, facts. He said, do you know 50% of the companies that get started in Silicon Valley fail within 1 or 2 years? I said, no, I didn't know that. He said, did you know that 90% of them fail within 5 years? I said, no, I didn't know that. He said, do you think I'm smart? I said, yes, you are very smart. You have 1,000 engineers working for you. Of course you are very smart. He said, I tried twice to start a company, and I failed. And I came to work at HP. Do you think you are smarter than me? When I failed, you believe you can succeed. I said, oh, God. No, I'm not as smart as you. If you failed, I'm starting to have some doubts. Maybe my heart is not right, and I should listen to logic, listen to statistics, good reasoning. So I'm debating, and the waitress brings us, everybody knows, right? In Chinese restaurant in America, after you finish your meal, what do you get? Fortune cookie. So I opened my fortune cookie, and I looked at it, and I started laughing. He said, what does it say? I said, I can't tell you, it's very embarrassing. He says, no, I want to see. I said, no, I will put it away. He says, let me see. So I gave it to him. He read, do not listen to him. And it said, you will be successful. He looks at me and says, forget about all the facts, about all the statistics. This is crazy. Go. You have my blessing. Go. So we went. I was 26 years old. It was not easy. Very difficult to raise money. It was 1980. First of all, we had heard there are these venture capitalists. They are investors who are willing to risk. They are looking for adventure, you know, risky business. The question is, where are they? I had brought all these engineers with me, telling them we are so smart. Everybody would give us money. We have such an amazing idea. Where are they? How do you find them? This is before today. Because of Google, you Google search in any place and you see a list of, in Silicon Valley, 1,000 VC funds and angel funds, all of those things, in many other cities in the world. At that time, there wasn't even a directory. I went to the library. We used to have yellow pages. And I looked at yellow pages, these big books, under V for venture capital. No listing. How the hell do you find these people? So I kept looking around, talking to many entrepreneurs, many young people. Finally, after 2-3 months, I found one venture capitalist, Jim Anderson, with very big VC funds, Merrill Anderson, Picard, I can't remember all of the names. 4 names were there. Jim Anderson was a very nice guy. He had worked at HP before, so he liked us. And I asked him, why are you guys so difficult to find? Why do you keep everything hidden? He said, if you cannot find us, you don't deserve to be funded, because it's your first test. If you cannot find us, how can you find employees for your company? How can you find investors? How can you find customers? This is your first test. If you can't find us, we are not interested. So, wow. Then I started to tell him my business idea. You know, we thought we are such an amazing engineers. All these people will respect us, give us money so quickly, right? He listened to us and he said, what is the difference between what you are doing and Daisy Microsystems? I said, Daisy Microsystems, what's that? He said, this company that started 1 year before you guys. How is it that you are better? I thought we were so smart we should keep all of our ideas hidden. I found out no, there was already another company trying to do something similar 1 year ahead of us. Then, when we met with another VC, he asked us, what's the difference between you and Mentor Graphics? I said, who is Mentor Graphics? He said, this company in Oregon. They started 6 months before you. What did I learn? No matter how smart we think we are, no matter how great we believe our ideas are, it's all nonsense. Ideas have no value. It's what you do with that idea, how you implement, how you execute, that really matters. So when you are thinking to start your company, to do something new, don't listen to some lawyer who tells you, keep it all to yourself, this should be trade secret, this should be patented, all that crap. If you do all of that, but you don't develop a product that works, you have failed. As soon as you can, go and share your ideas and find out how good it is and improve upon it. So once I learned this, I started to talk to more VCs, to more investors, to more customers. And each time when 5 venture capitalists told us no, rejected us, we would go change our plan, improve it, and publish a new plan. So does anybody want to guess how many failure meetings, how many meetings that we failed, we had? First of all, what rev of our plan got money? Any ideas? Almost. Revision 19. Multiply that by 5, it's 95. So 94 times investors said, no, you don't know, this doesn't work. What does culture teach us? When you fail once, you learn. But you don't fail twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 94 times? See, there is old economy based on knowledge. There is innovation economy based on disruption. When you are looking for something disruptive, you have to develop skills. Not to be afraid of failure, not to be afraid of change, and not to be afraid to stand up and move forward and be prepared to fail, but learn from each one. We kept improving our plan. Now guess what? It was extremely difficult in 1980. For us to develop the first prototype, it was $1.8 million. I had to raise based on our stupid idea. And investors would say, so we give you this money, what do we see? We said, we will show you a prototype, and if you like it, you can give us more money. We had to buy expensive computers, expensive servers. We had to pay a lot of money for license fees. There was no shareware, no internet, no 3G, 4G, 5G, no free software, no pay-as-you-go, no co-working space, none of that. There was no place like Harvard Space University that you could go and learn a lot about how to become an entrepreneur. So in 1980, took us more than 9 months, and I kept having faith and hired more engineers, more people. And many of the venture capitalists would look at me and say, immigrants, you're an immigrant, immigrants make good engineers, but you want to be CEO? I say, yeah, why not? They say, CEO should be tall, handsome. They didn't want to exactly say white, but that was part of what they meant. And, you know, here actually you have the topic here is top talk. I'm low altitude talk, you know, I'm not so top. When you're short, you don't look white, you're an immigrant, you're chubby. How could you convince people to give you money? Very difficult. But we did it finally after 9 months, 94 rejections. Each time we learned, we improve upon it. 3 years later, HP wanted to buy the company for $50 million. And we sold it to HP's competitor, which was Tektronix, for $75 million. And it was a funny story. We had a dinner. They said, we don't want to negotiate. Tell us a price that you would be so happy, you will not go back and forth. HP didn't want to negotiate either. So if we had said 55 million, HP would be happy. But why not be a little bit more courageous? We said 75 million. Next day, they gave us the offer for 75 million. And I said, darn, I should have said $1 billion or something. So with that in mind, we are getting to the end of my talk. I want to take a couple minutes to tell you about Harvard Space University. It's a university of future. It's looking at the most important topics that gets you a job, innovation job for innovation economy. And you learn the newest things. It's not just STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, STEAM, arts is there. At Harvard Space, we have students who are great technologists, but we zero in on the technologies of the future. Big data, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. We bring business students, but we don't give regular business degree, we give degree in entrepreneurship, how to create innovation economy. We have art students, artists, creative people, but they come and they work on interaction design. Because all of these three elements have to come together. If we are developing a new product. What was the difference between Windows versus Apple? Windows, you had to use 3 fingers, Control, Alt, Delete, to get it started. Why? Because it was designed by a geek who didn't understand art. He didn't understand user interface. Apple looked into simplicity, how to have a huge impact by making computing becoming second nature, available to everyone. So you need these 3 things come together. In addition, we are bringing a lot of personal development in our curriculum. Help you learn about the skills required for convincing people to work with you, to join you, overcoming your fears of failure, and learning how to do collaborative work to achieve great results. That sounds impossible to everyone. Once you learn all of this, you can go and apply for the jobs of future or create the jobs of future yourselves, because you have learned about innovation economy. So it has been my pleasure to talk with you all. Wonderful to see you. And I guess at some point we are going to have Q&A, so I get a chance to torture all of you. Don't run away, because we have a speaker much better than me. You will see how great she will present, and you will really enjoy it, but we will be back for Q&A. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yes.
Okay?
What's the reason for HP went under after you left? Would you like to repeat the question? No, I want to hear HP went under after you left. So what was the main reason for it?
No, absolutely not. I left HP in 1980, and HP continued to grow and grow and grow all the way through the 90s. They didn't need me. It was an amazing company. It was, I guess, maybe 15 years later that it started to have problems and issues happened. So, no, I was not that important of a person. I'm a legend in my own mind, but not at the minds of the management.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamran, for sharing yes, your remarkable journey in both life and work, and also sharing both the failure, more about the failure than the success along the way. And thank you very much for mentioning about the Harbor Space. For those you might not know, that Harbor Space is going to open the second campus in Thailand at the UTCC. And Mr. Kamran, he will use his success, his experience as the co-founders of many startups to teach here. So it's not yet an official launch, but we are going to announce it soon. But you are here, the first group to know that we are going to open the second campus with the Harbor Space at the UTCC very soon. So it's time for our second speaker. Oh, okay. Our second speaker will come here soon. So any of you are interested in maybe learning from our legendary, I would say that it's a legend, okay? Because and yes, you can hear from us soon about the Harbor Space.
Okay, so the torture starts earlier. Oh, God, you don't let me torture anyone. Okay, please stand up, introduce yourself, and tell us what's your question. What would you like to know?
Yeah. I'm Avut Ploy Song Sang. I work with a AA paper company. I used to work at TI few 10 years ago, about the time that you were with HP. I got senior member of technical staff there. Okay.
Bravo.
But I left and joined a satellite company in Thailand,
Excellent.
which was probably a mistake, but that's another story. Anyway, what I want to ask you about is, I do have an idea that I want to pursue. It's kind of one of my dreams. I'm getting older, okay, probably about your age.
I'm barely 39. What are you talking about? I have heard it gets
Seriously.
difficult after 40. So I'm really having nightmares that soon I will be 40 and I don't know what to do. But that's okay. We are the same age.
Okay. let me torture you more. Anyway, what I want to say is that I got an idea. I did what you said, a little bit of that. I checked with some of my colleagues, two prominent one, and they like it. Okay, but it's a long, long way to go.
It is, yeah. And just don't take anybody who says, I like it. Just tell them, hey, if you like it, give me $5,000, $10,000 investment. Let me see how much you really like it.
I believe when we discuss, I think we need at least about 10 eurekas. We got maybe about 1 or 2 at the moment. And it's not a complete 1 or 2. Okay, so it's at least 8 more eurekas before we get anywhere. It will take a lot of funding. It's a big job. It's never been done in Thailand, and it's kind of hard to explain.
But isn't that exciting?
Yes, it is.
See?
Very exciting.
Because
Anyway.
regardless of whatever is the outcome, you learn so much when you start your own business and you have a chance to reinvent yourself. It's like being reborn. It really is like that.
Of course. Unfortunately, we don't have fortune cookie in Thailand.
Here's an idea for a new business. Startup for fortune cookies.
No, we have something much better.
Oh, okay. See?
We have something called CMC.
CMC, okay. What? I'm not familiar with that.
You're not, of course, but I can tell you more
Okay.
later. Okay. Anyway, it's something similar to fortune cookie. Okay, but you don't go to dinner to get one. You go to temples. Some famous
okay.
one. Okay. So I went to check up about this idea, and it turned out to be great one, with some warning. Say that you have to scale mountain, you have to go under the sea, basically before you can get there.
See?
Okay,
It's
so
telling you don't be afraid of failure. Be
um,
prepared through ups and downs.
yeah, I do have some doubts, as you did, and I don't know what or how exactly yet. But one of my biggest problem is that, as I told you, I'm getting old, and it probably will take another 5 or 10 years before it get anywhere.
That's what you mean you are getting old. You are as old as you believe you are. I'm
Okay.
still at the beginning of my youth. I travel in 38 countries. I have never had this much energy.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, just change your mindset and follow your heart. Good things will happen. Worst case is you learn a lot. That's the worst case.
Of course, I think so too. At least I would have some fun. Somebody still hire me, they still pay me salary. So, what the heck?
Yeah.
Just try.
Yeah, give him a big round of applause for his courage. Proud of you. Who is the second victim or second volunteer? Sorry. Oh, Irene is here. Okay. I will go back. I was just filling up time for the real person.
Well, thank you very much for the questions, but we are going to have another Q&A session after the Irene's talk. So wait for it. And now it's time for our second speaker, Miss Irene. So please give her the warm welcome.
All right, it's 4:30, which is traditionally the absolute worst time to listen to a talk. We are all very tired, right? It's after lunch, we just heard a talk. So do me a favor, everybody just stand up for 1 second. Just stand up. Just for 1 second, just stand up. All right, and just go like this. Very good. If you want to jump around a little bit, just... Okay, better. I feel better. Thank you. Sit down. You can sit down. Great. So I'm not sure how relevant my talk is going to be for this audience because I'm a designer. I am not a business person. So my question for you guys is, am I the only designer in this room? Is there one other designer in this room? Just one? There's one there. There's two. Cool. Can you guys do me a favor and come sit in the front? Because I feel very uncomfortable not being around designers. It's like, ugh. Come sit closer. There's 3 seats up here. And that's it, right? There's just 3 of us. One more? Well, and there's 2 more there. So there's 3 designers in the room, right? Okay, good. Andrew. Yeah, come sit with them. All right, there's 5 of us now total. So surprise, surprise, that's actually pretty common for me as a designer. Usually when I work, I am in the minority. You know, there's a lot of people who do finance and people who do HR and people who do product and entrepreneurs, you know, people in all sorts of industries. And then there's like us poor designers, right? And we are like in the minority. So I've been working as a professional designer, and I'm going to give away my age now, since 2005. So you can do the math. And I thought about talking to you guys today, you know, and I could talk to you guys about all the client work I've done in all of these years and, you know, all the times we've worked with Google and Spotify and all of these big companies, which I'm sure you guys would love to hear about. But no, I'm not going to talk about that at all. I actually want to talk about the things that I care about, the things that make my belly run, you know, the things, my engine, like the things that excite me. Because I believe that all of us, at our core, we have this thing that makes us love what we do, right? If you go to a job and you kind of walk in every day at 9 and you do the work and then you leave at 5, you know? So it's really important to try to find that thing that you love. And the thing that I love is going to be different from the thing you love, you know? It's not going to be the same. Maybe it is, but probably not. And that's okay. But you just have to discover it. So anyways, my name is Irene. I started a company called Anton and Irene. I'm the Irene, not the Anton, just so you know. That's my partner over there on the left without the boobs. It's really the only way you can tell us apart. He's getting older though, so you know it could get ugly at some point for him too. So anyways, we worked together for a very long time before we started our own company. And when we started working together at our previous agency, we did all of these massive projects. We did the redesign of usatoday.com, which is America's biggest newspaper. We worked on the Chrome browser with the Chrome team under the direction at that time of Sundar Pichai, who is now the CEO of Google. We worked on ESPN, we worked on Balenciaga, we did the interface for the Xbox. We did all of these huge projects. And we did that for 7 years. And for 7 years, we worked 12-hour days. I was still in my 20s back then, so I could still physically sustain it. And on top of that, we were flying all over the world about once a month to meet with our clients. So for about 7 years of my life, I was just continuously jet-lagged on top of it as well. And in the beginning, it was really exciting. I was learning so much. I was very young. I had all these responsibilities. Every project was like a new mountain to climb. And then towards the last 3 years of us working there, both of us started to feel kind of exhausted. We as designers, we had 15 to 25 designers report into us. So we were their managers, and they had to do all of this work for us. So we had to manage all of these different projects. And we realized that little by little, we were actually getting promoted away from the thing that we were good at, which is design. Because when you are a good designer, you get promoted to be a manager, right? Or a director. And you don't necessarily like that work, because as a designer, you like to create, you like to draw, you like to make. And it took a while for us to realize, like, what is going on? Like, why are we not doing the thing we love anymore? You know, why are we sitting in meetings all day? Why don't we do actual work with our hands, which is what we love? And what we realized is, as we got promoted throughout the years, is that basically, if you love design, you become a director, and all of a sudden, you start to hate your job. That's what happened to us. We were like, ugh, you know, this is not what we want to do with our lives. And at some point during this crisis, I call it a crisis because we had just turned 30. And for those of you who have had a similar crisis, 30 is a big year, you know? You think, oh, what am I doing with my life? Am I on the right path? Do I like what I'm doing? What should it be, you know? So 30 was a big deal. And we started to have all these thoughts. And at some point, we were speaking at a conference in Costa Rica, of all places. And Costa Rica has a huge design conference once a year, and we were invited to speak there. So we flew in from New York, which is where our studio is. And on the plane to New York, I realized that my favorite graphic designer was on the same plane. And my favorite graphic designer is Lance Wyman. And Lance Wyman is famous because he designed the Olympics branding for Mexico in 1968. And to me, in my perspective, that's still the most beautiful branding ever made. It's so elegant, it's so perfect. So when I saw him on the plane, I was like, oh my God, it's Lance Wyman. I want to talk to Lance Wyman. So we got off the plane, and I went up to him, and I said, hey, Lance. I'm speaking at the same conference as you are, so what's going on? How are you doing? And he was like, oh, you know, I'm really tired. And I said, oh, really? Why are you tired? He said, well, I was up all night last night trying to finish this job because I knew I had to come here and I didn't want to have to deal with the client while I'm here. I just wanted to be able to enjoy the conference. So yeah, I'm just a little bit tired. And I said, you were up until 2 a.m. finishing client work? He's like, yeah. I said, well, no offense, Lance, but how old are you? And he was like, oh, I'm 82 years old. I said, you're 82 years old? He said, yeah. I said, well, then why don't you just retire if you're 82 years old? And he was like, retire? Why should I retire? The only people who retire are the people who don't like their jobs. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit at home and bother my wife all day? She'd kill me. So I heard that, and I was in the middle of this crisis myself, you know, and I thought, oh my God, if I continue doing this work that I'm doing now, I'm going to want to retire, you know? And I need to change it so that what I want to do is not retire. That's the goal in life, you know, that you have a job that you don't even want to retire. So around the same time, we flew to Amsterdam for a project that Anton and I were working on, which is where I'm from. I'm originally from Amsterdam. Has anyone here been to Amsterdam? A couple of you? Nice. For those of you who haven't been there, it's more than just, you know, marijuana and prostitutes. There's a lot more to the city. I mean, if you like that, that's cool too. We have that as well. But we also have really good museums and a beautiful city. So we flew to Amsterdam, and we met another one of our heroes, graphic design heroes. His name is Karel Martens, also 120 years old, I think. That's Karel there on the left, not on the right. That's my partner, Anton. And we went to his studio in Amsterdam. We had emailed him and asked him if he didn't know us, if we could just come and visit. And he said, sure, yeah, come over. So we come over. He opens the door and he's like, kind of like, what do you guys want? What are you doing here? And he has this huge studio with all of this work up on the wall, but he's completely alone, just hanging out there, I guess. I don't know. So we sit down. He got us coffee and cookies, and we said, so, Caro, like, what's like a typical day for you? Like, what do you do all day? He's like, well, like, I come in the morning at like 9. Then I answer some emails, and then I start working, and then around 6 I go home, and then on the weekends I go sailing, because I love sailing. I said, oh, okay, that's cool. So what's like a recent client project that you've worked on that you really liked? And he goes, clients? I don't work with clients. I hate working with clients. I said, okay, so what do you do then? He's like, I just do the work that I like to do. I said, so you come into the office all day and you design, but you don't have a client? So like, what are you actually doing? And he was like, oh, I come up with my own brief. I'm my own client, and then I give myself my own deadlines. And that's what I do all day. And Anton and I looked at each other and we were like, this guy's onto something. We should be like this. How can we run our company that we can get to do that, you know? Because the reality is that in all the years that Anton and I were working together and working these 12-hour days and working for all these big companies, we never had any time to do the stuff that we wanted to do because we were exhausted, you know? And basically, you know, it would be like hour 13 and it'd be like, hey, remember that thing that we wanted to do, that like personal project thing? And we're like, yeah, we're gonna do it in a second. So for 7 years, we had all these discussions of stuff that we wanted to do and we never did it. So a big thing when we finally started our own company with no money and no clients and no studio space in New York City, which was very risky because we walked away from very, very high-paying jobs. We said, no, we don't want that very big salary with an assistant and a person who brings us sandwiches and books our flights. And no, actually, we'd rather just not get paid at all. Because isn't that more fun, just to have complete terror and fear about whether or not you're going to be able to pay rent next month, you know? So we walked away from it. And we had decided when we started our own studio, which was in 2014, that we were going to have a new business model. And we talked a lot about what that should be. And we decided that our new business model was going to be like this. So the way we see our work is 60% of the time in a year we want to work on client work, and 40% of the time we want to work on personal work. And the reason we kind of did 60-40 is that we want to be able to take the money that like Spotify pays us, you know, and invest it into the work that we want to put into the world. But that also means that we have to have balls to say no to paying clients when they appear after we have already spent 60% of the year on client work. So we knew that that was not going to be easy. We had to be pretty firm about it because it would be very easy to say, oh, we'll just take another client and oh, we'll just take another one of those. And the reason we find this very important is because we look at it like this. Client work to us means money. And personal work to us means satisfaction. And everyone here in this room has their own feeling of what is your balance, you know? Is your balance more like that, you know? Like I know personally even designers who drive Porsches, you know? I mean, they do. They drive Porsches. They work on very boring projects. But they drive a Porsche because to them it's more important to drive a Porsche than to work on something interesting, right? So it's very possible to do that as a designer. I also know designers who do a lot of really interesting album covers for their friend's band, you know, and like installations in a nightclub, and they love it. They think it's great. But they also sleep on a mattress on the floor in an apartment in Queens with no heating. Which I know here in Bangkok is probably not a big deal, But like in New York, no heating. Yeah, you really have to love what you do in order to suffer through that. So we knew that, and we talked about that. Like, what is our balance? And we knew our balance is 60-40, and we're okay with that. So while Anton and I were having these discussions, we got this random email from this person that we had never heard of before, called Svetlana. And Svetlana emails us. She said, hey, I'd like to talk to you guys on Skype. Can you guys talk to us? So, okay, no. And basically Svetlana said to us, okay, so I'm going to start a school in Barcelona, and I want you guys to be the directors of the interaction design program. And we said, okay, do you have a curriculum? No, actually, I'd like you to write the curriculum. Oh, we can write the curriculum from scratch? Like the way we think people should learn design today in the modern world? Yeah. Without like having to worry about all the stuff that like normal traditional universities have to care about, like prerequisites and all that stuff? Yeah. Huh. Okay. So where is this university? Oh, it's in Barcelona. Yeah, you said that, but like where? Oh, it's here. Oh. So it's like actually a beautiful building in the harbor of Barcelona. So basically we went over there and we said, sure. So part of our 60-40 deal now, part of that 40% enjoyment is actually getting to go to this building and teaching the next generation of designers what design is about from our perspective, which it's just not the perspective, it's just our perspective, That's it. I'm not necessarily right about everything. I often think I am, though, but I'm not always. So anyways, we, of course, do client work as well. As I said, I'm not going to talk about that stuff today because I want to share with you guys the work that we are really, really passionate about. Unfortunately, my partner can't be here today because normally we do these things together. So I'm going to get bored of listening to myself talk after a while, I'm sure. But here we go. So I'm going to talk about 4 projects. The first one is a watch. The watch I'm wearing right now. We made a watch. And we are digital designers who made a watch that doesn't monitor your heartbeat, doesn't tell you whether or not you're sick, it barely tells the time. It was a nightmare to produce, trust me, but we did it. We made a physical watch, which is crazy. The second project I want to talk to you guys about is a project about my childhood in Amsterdam. So we made an interactive documentary, so a website where you can watch a film that you can interact with about my childhood, because I grew up in a lesbian commune in the 80s. Totally normal, Just, isn't that not weird at all? So we dug deep into that story. Like, what is that about? Another project we did was a photo project where we took all of the big architectural monuments of New York City and we removed them from their natural environment and basically stole them. We raided the New York skyline and put them in locations unknown. And then the last project I want to talk to you guys about is a follow-up project to this documentary about a lesbian commune in Amsterdam, which was paid for by IKEA. So how, what? This is a true story, guys. IKEA paid for that. So these are the 4 things I'm going to be talking about today. But first I want to just kind of get this nonsense out of the room. So you guys have heard of this thing like, think outside of the box. Be disruptive. You've heard this stuff, right? Okay, great. But what does that actually mean? Like, it's really easy to say, but like, really? Do you really want to be outside the box? Sounds like an uncomfortable place to be. So people always tell designers, oh, you shouldn't get too comfortable. You should do the type of work that makes you nervous, And I agree with that. But for all of these 4 projects that I'm about to show you guys, if I think about my comfort zone or our comfort zone, this is a comfort zone. Sure, you can step outside of your comfort zone, right? And when you're outside of your comfort zone, but still kind of close enough to your comfort zone. You're like in the courage zone. So I like to call it the courage zone, right? So you feel confident and you feel brave because you're not that far from your comfort zone. But for all of these projects, we stepped outside of the courage zone into what I like to call the terror zone. And once you're in the terror zone, you're so far away from your comfort zone that you become completely paralyzed and overwhelmed because you have no idea what to do. So, the first thing that we decided was, we have been digital designers, web designers, interaction designers, whatever the hell you want to call it, basically doing stuff for the computer screen, right, for 15 years. And we knew that we wanted to do something else. We wanted to make a physical product. So a couple of years ago, my partner Anton designed this watch, just in Photoshop, like it was a comp. And the idea was quite nice, very simple, that the hour at the top is signified, by this number here in the middle of the hourglass, and the minutes are at the bottom. So right now it's 4:35, right? And they rotate. So fairly simple idea, and we thought, why not just make it? Like, it would be cool to make it. So we put it out just as a concept. We hadn't produced it yet. We hadn't physically made it yet. And when we put it out, it won a very, very big industrial design award out of Germany called the Red Dot Award. So once it won the Red Dot, we were like, oh, maybe we should actually produce it for real, Like, it shouldn't just be a concept. But we didn't know how, because we are not product designers. We don't even know how to do 3D. We don't know about manufacturing. We don't know any factories. We don't know anything about that. So at some point, we were talking at a conference of all places in St. Petersburg in Russia. And we were showing this and we were saying how we would like to make it, but we don't know how. And after the call, this guy came out from the audience who was just participating. He was just sitting in the audience and he said, "Hello, my name is Dimitri and I know how to make watch." And we said, "Well, hello, Dimitri, that's awesome. Are you serious?" He's like, "Yes, I will make watch for you." And we said, "Okay." So we paid him $5,000 to make us a physical prototype of this watch, working prototype by hand. So he hand carved all of these pieces. So in the end, we had this prototype, right? Working prototype, beautiful, handcrafted, sapphire glass, the works. The problem was we only had one. So Anton and I kind of shared custody over this watch. He would get it 1 week and then I'd be like, "I want to wear it now," and it was like kind of a mess. So we realized, okay, we need to figure out how to mass produce it. So now we have a functioning prototype. Now how do we mass produce it? So we were talking to a friend of ours over lunch who happens to be the former CEO of a watch company in New York City called Nuka, which was a very popular watch brand in the 2000s. Even Kanye got photographed wearing one of his watches. But then the whole company fell apart. He went super mega bankrupt, and it's like a really sad story. So we were talking to him about our watch and how he wanted to make it. And he said, "Oh, I'll just introduce you guys to my guy in Hong Kong, Eddie Law. And he can help you guys with manufacturing because he's super good." We said, "Okay, so cool. Should we email him?" He's like, No. Next time he's in New York, I'll send him over. I'll tell him to come by your studio." I said, "Okay." So one day, this guy, Eddie Law, this older Chinese gentleman in a suit, comes into our studio in Brooklyn, unannounced. He didn't tell us he was coming, and he had a little suitcase. And he's like, "Hello, my name is Eddie Law, and I'm going to make your watch." And we said, "Hi, Eddie. Would you like some coffee? Should we talk about this?" He's like, No. I'm very busy. So just give me the functioning prototype and $35,000, and I will be back in 3 weeks. Hold on a second. Let me just call Matthew, which was the guy who recommended him to us. And I said, "Matthew, what the hell? Your dude is here. He doesn't even want to have coffee. He wants to take our prototype, and he needs $35,000? Like, is this normal?" And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just give it to him. And I was like, okay. So I said to Anton, are you okay with signing a check for this random man we have never met for $35,000? And he was like, yeah, fine, do it. So, okay. So we signed him a check. He didn't even take off his coat, you know, like he just took the prototype, took the check, and left. So then we didn't hear anything for 3 weeks. And we were like, oh my God, we totally got ripped off. Like, this is like, he totally robbed us, you know? And for us, $35,000 is a lot of money, you know? Like, that's a lot of money. So I was like, should we call Matthew? Should we tell him? No, not yet. Okay, let's wait to call him. Okay, today should we call Matthew? No. So finally we were like, okay, fine, let's see what happens. I guess it's in the hands of the universe at this point. There's not much we can do. And suddenly we got an email from Mr. Eddie Law in Hong Kong with the specs from the factory. And he said, here are the specs. This is actually one page of 45-page document. Here are the specs from the factory. Are you guys okay with this? We're ready to move ahead. I just need the second payment of $35,000. And then you will receive your watches after Chinese New Year's, because everyone is on vacation. So after that, somewhere in March. And we said, all right, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Let's do this. So now we have this amazing watch, which later on I will tell you how it turned into a complete and total nightmare. But we're not quite there yet. So the other thing we wanted to do as we started our own company was tell our own stories. And one of the things I think is the greatest pity as a designer is that we have these amazing skills, you know, of communicating, of making something beautiful, of making something easy to use. And the only way we use these skills is to help other people sell stuff. And good, nice for them that they get to take advantage of our hard work and creativity, and it's fine, I get paid to do that. But maybe I also have something to say. Maybe I want to use those skills for things that I want to do, for stories I want to tell. So when I was a kid in the 80s, as I told you guys, I grew up in a lesbian household. My mother was the only non-lesbian in the house. That's me right there as a little kid. There were 4 children living in this house. And they had decided to create a commune in 1981. Not only sharing an apartment building where you share a kitchen and a bathroom and all of these things, they also shared the finances. They shared the cleaning responsibilities. So you can probably imagine that this communal dream turned into quite a bit of a headache and a nightmare over the course of these years. My mother, who is 75 years old right now, she still lives in this communal house in Amsterdam. A lot of these ladies who are now in their 70s still live in this communal live in Amsterdam. So we decided that we were going to go to Amsterdam and film them and basically ask them, what the hell were you thinking? And what actually happened? Wow, how did this whole experiment, this human experiment with these little kids living in this house, how did this all come to be? So we did all of this research and we did all of these interviews in Amsterdam, and we tried to understand also the legal implications and from the city government, what it meant and all of these things. And the idea was that because it was going to be an interactive documentary, people could watch this story, learn about this story of this house in Amsterdam, and then at the end of the documentary, we would ask people what they would be comfortable sharing after watching this. Would you be comfortable sharing a bathroom with another family randomly? Would you? Toilet, kitchen, communal spaces, internet, garden? Where's the line, right? We all have a different idea of what we are or aren't comfortable sharing. And because the story took place in the 80s, as I said, I gave away my age already, so I'm over it already. It's fine. I'm 36 years old. We wanted it to feel and look like design in the 80s. So we looked at Dutch graphic design in the 1980s. And Dutch graphic design in the 1980s looked like this. And it's not like Thai graphic design of the 80s. It's not even like American graphic design of the 80s. This is supremely Dutch and only in Holland. And when you put all of these things together, you start to notice some things. So you notice, for example, how there's really awkward color combos that feel like they kind of like don't make sense together, right? Like, what is going on with red and magenta? Who comes up with that? There's a lot of very simple geometric shapes, right? There's no depth, there's no 3D, there's no shadows. There's a lot of very simple typography. The typeface actually is universe, and it's mostly used in lowercase. So we wanted it to feel like this. So the reason why we ended up meeting that old guy in Amsterdam, remember, is because he is the pioneer of that style of graphic design in the 80s. And in fact, when we were at his studio, we asked him, Karel, how comfortable would you be if we completely rip you off for this project? Like, we're just going to copy your style verbatim. And he said, I don't care, do whatever you want. So here's a spread of one of his books. And here is the layout of our infographic screen. So it's not one-to-one, it's not exactly the same, but you can see where the inspiration comes from. Same thing for another one of his layouts and yet another one of its layouts. It feels like it lives in the same world, right? It feels like it could be from the same era, but not a direct copy. And another thing that I started thinking about a lot, since I had to kind of go back into my own childhood, was what should the homepage be for this new interactive documentary? And I didn't want it to be like a boring homepage like any other homepage. I wanted it to be like a movie poster, like a digital movie poster. Because it's a movie, it should have a poster. So if it has a poster, what should this poster be? What should it communicate? What are we trying to say? And as a kid in Holland, when you're a little child, like elementary school age, we make a lot of these things called a kijkdoos, which is called if you literally translate it, it would be a looking box. So the kids are encouraged to make their own little world inside. There's a hole cut into the shoebox. You close the shoebox, and then you can look into each of the kids' own little world. So I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if the movie poster would be based on something that all Dutch children make? That would be so nice. So I explained it to my partner, Anton, who is Russian. And he's like, what the fuck is this looking box thing? I don't understand. And I was like, okay, Anton, so think about it. Like, it's like my childhood will look back into my childhood. It'd be like we can make our own little world in it. And then I remembered this portrait of one of my favorite photographers called David LaChapelle. And he did this amazing portrait of Ewan McGregor, the actor Ewan McGregor, this picture. So I thought, if I show Anton this, he'll understand what I mean, Like, basically, Anton, it should be this, kind of like that, with my thing, and but like that, but less violent, like nobody has to shoot me, but kind of like that, And he was like, oh, okay, I get it. So in true design fashion, we went into super high-tech, high-fidelity, very professional prototyping, as you can see here. All our prototypes are state-of-the-art. We really make sure that we spend a lot of time making sure we get it right. But the idea was we were trying to figure out dimensions, like how big should the box be? Where should it be? Where should my head be? And also, we came up with this idea that the movie poster should show the most important moment in the film, which is when everybody in the house stopped having communal dinners. It was kind of the end of the communal dream. So I'm looking back in time to an empty dining room table because no one is eating together anymore. That was the idea. So we needed some furniture. So we decided to actually look at old pictures of my house to see what kind of furniture we had back then in the 80s. And we had really cheap, shitty IKEA basic furniture, you know, so nothing special, but we wanted it to look like how it was, you know. So we went into 3D, we designed this furniture, then we 3D printed this furniture, and then we spray painted this furniture based on this Dutch graphic design color palette, you know, that I showed you guys earlier, right? That same art direction. And then we got to work. We bought a $10 box from Muji. We drilled a hole and cut a hole into it. We started spray painting all of the components into the color that we needed. We also bought a Barbie set of place settings from Amazon. So like cups and plates and forks and knives, because it was exactly the right dimension. We spray painted all of that. Then we very simply just set up a scene, because we don't have a photo studio in our office. So we just set it up very quickly, and we started to figure out, just with one flash and one camera, like, how should this scene be? Should it be from the left? Should it be from the right? Should it be from the top? Like, where does it look the best? So in the end, you know, we went, obviously cleaned it up in Photoshop. The in-camera shot, before any type of photo retouching or editing, looked like that. And then after a little bit of retouching and a little bit of editing, it ended up looking like this. And we thought, ooh, this is so weird. I love it. Like, it's so strange. Like, what is this, you know? Like, it looks surreal. So we thought, ooh, wouldn't it be nice if, like, when you're on the website and people move their mouse, like, my eyes would follow their mouse? Wouldn't that be cool? And we're like, shit, now we have to shoot everything again. And then we showed this to one of our friends who's a 3D artist. And he was like, how long did you guys spend doing this? And we were like, oh, like 3 weeks. He's like, 3 weeks? Guys, I could have done this for you in like 4 hours. Like, why did you go through all this effort, you know? And we're like, oh, it was fun. Like, I was covered in purple paint for like a week, you know? Like, it was great. We had a lot of fun doing it. And I like the fact that it's real. I like the fact that it's not 3D. It makes me feel good about the fact that we actually made something. So in the end, the idea of the homepage is, indeed, my eyes follow the mouse. And then when you click to start the documentary, the chair falls and the documentary begins. And I'll tell you guys a little secret. So I'm extremely superstitious. What is this thing that you guys have with the sticks? CMC? CMC? Yeah. So I don't even know what it says, but I go in there and I'm like, I want to know my fortune. Like, I'm super, I believe in my horoscope. I'm a Gemini. You know, like, I totally buy all of that stuff. It's very embarrassing for a scientific person to admit, but I am supremely superstitious. And my biggest superstition is around the number 14, 1-4. And the reason I'm superstitious around the number 14 is because Anton's birthday is on the 14th, my birthday is on the 14th, and our studio's birthday is on the 14th. My apartment in New York City is number 14. Our studio number in Brooklyn is number 14. Number 14, number 14, number 14. So for me, anytime there's a 14, you know, I make sure I pay attention. So whenever we launch a new project and we have to decide when the project launches, we always launch our products on the 14th, always. And sometimes our client is like, we don't want to launch on the 14th. And we're like, well, that's too bad, because we're launching on the 14th. Not on the 13th and not on the 15th, on the 14th. And it's actually in our contract. So before they sign our contract, they have to agree that we're going to launch on the 14th. It doesn't matter if it's March or April, it doesn't matter. It just has to be the 14th. So on the 13th, we were getting ready to launch this project, right? Which was very personal to me. It was a lot of work, so we were very excited. And it was the 13th, so this is why numbers matter. And in the madness of trying to run, you know, against the clock to finish this project, because if we were not to finish it the next day, then we had to wait a whole month to launch it, you know? So we wanted to make sure it got done. So in this madness of the 13th, we get this email. Hello. Would you be interested in working on a project with Ivanka Trump and her hashtag Women Who Work initiative? On the 13th. On the 13th. So I'm reading this. And I mean, you know, guys, I live in New York City. We are severely traumatized with what's happening right now with Trump, okay? Just between us. So my reaction was to be like, who the hell do you think you are? Your father is ruining the world. Like, he's a psychopath, you know? And I wanted to, like, you know, and then I was like, no. That's what Twitter is for. So I didn't respond, but I took a screenshot of it. And I wrote, no gracias at Ivanka Trump. Hashtag we are immigrants. And as soon as I posted it, I didn't tell Anton. Anton was like, Irene, what if our clients see it? And I was like, yeah, forget that. Good. If we have clients who would be offended by this, I don't want to work with them anyway. And he was like, okay. So while he was kind of like, and then in the middle of it, we realized that our client had already liked it. So it all turned out fine. However, this was two things that were really, really goal-oriented, right? Like, we wanted to do something physical that was outside of the digital world, and we wanted to have something that was personal. So sometimes you also do stuff that doesn't make any sense. So I'll show you something that made no sense. Anton and I went to see this exhibit in New York City about buildings, a photography exhibit. So these pictures are like huge. They're like 3 meters. And to you, this might seem like nothing special. Like, who cares? It's just a picture of a church. But to us, this was really special because there are no perspective lines in it. The perspective is completely straight. Now, why is that interesting? Because if you were to photograph this from the bottom up, this is how you would see it, right? It would be from the bottom. But it's not. It's completely straight. So basically, my partner Anton, who's a huge photography nerd, he wanted to figure out how this was done. So he went and he photographed a building in New York City. This is the New Museum. Very famous architect, Japanese architect from Sana, designed it. And he started to play around with the perspective, pulled it out, and tried to get that perspective. At the same time, he looked up the architectural drawing to make sure that it was architecturally the same as that building, and then cleaned it up a little bit. And then he was like, I don't like all these ugly buildings around because now the perspective here starts to look really weird, right? Like, that's not natural. So he deleted it. And remember, we have 40% of the time of our studio to do personal work. So I was walking behind Anton's computer and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this doesn't seem really productive. And he was like, well, I just really want to figure out how the perspective. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, do whatever you want. Like, it's not my problem. And then we went on vacation, and Anton went to Hawaii, which has a lot of bizarre landscapes. And basically, he came back super refreshed. And the next time I walked behind his desk, I saw this. And I was like, whoa, wait, that's actually pretty cool. What is that? He's like, I don't know. I just want to play with like a landscape and a building and I don't know. I think it looks cool. So yeah, it looks cool. I want to clean everything up and make it like super weird. So okay, do that. So he came up, he had this thing, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool if we just go around New York City and photograph a bunch of different buildings and just drop them in weird landscape? Because it looks kind of nice, you know? So we looked at the map of Manhattan and we figured out which spots we wanted to photograph, which buildings we wanted to photograph. And then we had to be really careful when we would photograph them because obviously the sunrise is in the east. So the shadows would reflect against, you know, for the buildings that were facing east, And then on the other side, the sunset is in the west. So we had to make sure that we basically photographed it at the right time, depending on whether or not the building was facing east or west. So it was a big mistake, actually, because we didn't realize that the first time we were just deciding to go photograph it. And we really wanted to have this building by Frank Gehry in the series. It's a really weird, super tall building. But the problem with this building is that there's like a bunch of other buildings covering, because it's very tall. So it's like here, there's just a bunch of other buildings. So we had to go from Brooklyn to photograph it with a telelens so we could get it straight on. But we still couldn't fake whatever happens here, you know? So Anton and I had been to Brazil earlier, and we decided, why don't we just cheat? And we put it in there. So then we don't have to worry about the floors on the bottom. And I'm actually in this picture. That's literally me. Because in Brazil, you can go dune boarding. It's like snowboarding, but on the sand. I don't recommend it. You will have sand in places you do not want to have sand. That's all I have to say about that. Anyways, I know I'm like probably going to go over time, so feel free to like kick me off. I have no problem with that at all. Just come up and be like, Irene, you're done. I told you guys about IKEA, right? So when we launched One Shared House, which was that personal documentary about my lesbian childhood, IKEA called. And IKEA said, we would love to give you money to do a follow-up project about your lesbian commune project. And I was like, is this a joke? Like, what does IKEA have to do with any of this? And they were like, no, you don't understand, because we're actually really interested in the future of communal living, because we know that communal living is becoming a massive trend. So we are very interested in getting a project about communal living, but for the future. So all we ask is we want to have a project about communal living in the future, and we will pay for it. And I don't know if any one of you has ever lived communally, but basically when people think of communal living, they think of it being like this. This is actually in a kommunalka in Moscow. It's not. This is not what communal living is. Communal living is basically about being able to live in the center of the city for a lower price, right? While sharing things that you probably shouldn't all have one of anyway. Why do we all need to have our blender when we only use it once? Why do we all need to have a toaster when we only use it once a week, you know? Why do we all need to have all these individual things when in reality we could just share it and then pull all of those things together so that we can live in the center of the city and combat loneliness? But we had to settle on a year. And we thought long and hard about what year it should be. And we thought 2050, maybe it takes place in the year 2080, maybe it takes place in the year whatever, like we didn't know. And I threw out the year 2030. I said, why not 2030? Let's do it. Let's make this project take place in the future, but in the year 2030. And IKEA said, okay, but 2030 doesn't seem like enough time to really have big societal changes. If you look back, you know, if you look at it's 12 years in the future, like what can really happen in 12 years? You know, like, is it really enough time to say that more people will live communally? Probably not. And I said, well, actually, I don't agree, because if you look back 12 years into the past, society has changed a lot. So 12 years ago, we didn't have the iPhone. Didn't exist. We didn't have Airbnb. We didn't have selfies. We didn't have Uber. We didn't have Spotify. We didn't have Google Maps. We didn't have hashtags like hashtag Black Lives Matter, because we didn't have Twitter. We didn't have commercially available drones. We didn't have self-driving cars. We didn't have Tinder. What a time to be alive. Nobody knew who this guy was. Nobody had ever heard of him. Who the hell is that guy? Nobody knew. And nobody cared about this guy. So in reality, a lot can happen in 12 years. So let's make it take place in the year 2030. And in order to get people into the mindset of what the year 2030 would be like, we created a little motion video to tell the story in that same 1980s Dutch graphic design that I told you guys about. And this has sound. I don't know if it matters or if it sounds on. So the idea was that it was going to be a fake application for a communal living situation in the year 2030 where you get to decide what you are or aren't comfortable sharing. And we ask a bunch of questions, and all of these questions, you know, you can answer. You can go to this website now, onceyourinhouse2030.com. But the beauty of it is that right now we have the largest database the largest database of information about how people want to live, because we have over 200,000 applicants. So we know exactly what people across the world are or aren't comfortable sharing, and we can dig into that data and figure out what specific demographics within a specific age group from a specific country are willing to share. So a very crazy little interactive documentary about my childhood turned into a very, very powerful data tool for IKEA. Who knew? Weird. I'm going to wrap up with this very quickly because I know I'm super over time, but basically a lot of this stuff is done with the help of a lot of our friends. A lot of this stuff is also done with our own money. So all of this stuff was an investment that we made that nobody gave us. So the first thing you can do is get help. For Anton's project, we got help from a writer who is an extremely famous, well-known New York journalist, and he wrote a bunch of funny stories to accompany these weird buildings that we removed from New York City. He also helped write the voiceover for this interactive documentary that we made, because I'm not a writer, so we needed help. We also have a friend who is an illustrator. So this illustrator created all the illustrations for our interactive documentary, animated them, and basically made our entire project come alive because of it. We also have a friend who's a musician. So he wrote an original score for this interactive documentary from scratch. And all of these people are extremely important in making any of this stuff happen. Our studio is a place where a lot of different creatives come together to basically work on stuff. We also have a 3D guy who created a little video for this watch when we were trying to launch it, which was really, really cool. And we have a photographer friend who created this awesome shot of Anton and I selling the watch in Chinatown. Another friend of ours helped out with some cool gifts. She's a very famous artist in New York City. So now we have these awesome, limited edition gifts that we can give to people that, we love. And of course, the other thing is get money. And I'm going to be super honest with you guys, because I hate it when business people and tech people and designers tell you everything except for the money part. Money part is important. Now, you guys have to realize I live in New York City, so my rent of my studio is $7,000 a month, okay? The rent of my apartment is $3,500 a month. Okay, so that's the New York City prices. So you just have to think about that when you hear what I'm about to tell you. This misplaced project, cheap, $90. All we had to do was buy the URL. Easy, barely an investment. One shared house. All these people I mentioned who helped us, well, we didn't pay them their rate, but we did pay them. So it cost us $20,000 to make it. The Neuro Watch, as I told you guys, $5,000 for the prototype, $35,000 times 2 for production, $75,000 in legal fees. Okay? If anybody wants a watch, I would really appreciate it. We are very, very deep in the red with this watch. And then One Shared House 2030, we didn't have to buy anything, we didn't pay anything. We got paid. So the money that this project paid us covered the previous One Shared House project. So we're even again. So it's good, you know? Still zero, but better than minus 20. So not bad. And the whole point of this is, as a designer, when you work for clients, you are never allowed to fail. You know, there's all this talk like, oh, fail hard, fail often. Yeah, that's easy to say. I can't fail. If I fail, I can't pay my rent, you know? So when it's a client project, I am not failing. Maybe you can fail once and they forgive it, but you fail twice and you're out of work, you know? And I am not comfortable with that. So fail hard, fail often comes from a position of privilege. Don't listen to those people. It's bullshit. Only millionaires say that. So when it's okay to fail as a designer? Never. When is it okay to fail when you work for yourself? Whenever you want. Right? I lost a lot of money doing these projects. I don't care. It's fine. You know, like the way I look at it is like Spotify paid for it. You know, it's fine. I don't care. So, of course, I'm going to share with you guys some failures. Number one, the reason why we had to spend $75,000 in legal fees for this stupid watch is because we keep getting threatened to sue by some other random company who doesn't even have any grounds to sue us, but as soon as they email us or send us a letter, we have to respond with our lawyers, and the lawyer charges for that. So it's a nightmare. Is anyone here a lawyer? Good. Because I don't like lawyers. It's like, oh, I talked to you for 2 minutes. Here's a bill for $800. What? What the hell, you know? Like, Jesus Christ. We also tried to run a Kickstarter campaign for this watch. We thought it would be great. You know, we can just sell all the watches on Kickstarter. Kickstarter people didn't give a shit. Nobody wanted to buy our watch. We made $18,000 of the $65,000 we needed. So we failed super hard. Didn't even get to sell it that way. We also got a call from the London Design Museum because they were doing an exhibition about living in the future, and they wanted to have One Shared House as part of their exhibition. And as a designer, you know, when you get a call from a museum, you're like, I've made it. I'm an artist now. I'm no longer a designer. I'm an artist. So we got this call, and Anton and I, they didn't even tell us what they wanted. They just said that they were considering us to be part of this exhibition. So Anton and I made a 90-page deck of like a whole exhibit in London of how it could be like a physical space of all of our stuff, you know? And so on the second call with the London Design Museum, you know, they're like, okay, well, let's talk about what the project should be. And we're like, sure, but let me tell you, we have an idea ourselves. So here's our 1-hour presentation about what you could do with our idea. So they were listening to it, and it was on Skype, so I could see their faces, and they were like they were looking at us like, what the hell, you know? And I thought, ooh, this is not going well. Like, they're not reacting very well to this. And after an hour, they were like, yeah, that's great, Irene. We really just want that video to play on a screen. So we don't really want any of this. We're like, oh, never mind. That's fine. You can have the video. Yeah, sure. So if anyone has a space here in Bangkok, I have a full exhibit about the future of living, just ready for anyone to exhibit it. It's all done. All we need to do is get a space. Another big failure was this Misplaced project that Anton's photography project. We decided that because we had 10 of these buildings, we were going to put them on a little website. We're going to have little funny stories accompany all of these photos, And basically, we didn't think anything of it, and we just pushed it live, and we really didn't think anything of it. So we get to work the next day, and Design Boom, which is a really, really big design blog in the United States, published the project. And we were like, oh, that's nice. We're used to getting press, so we're like, oh, that's great, that's nice. Nice that people like it. And then within 10 minutes, the Saatchi Gallery tweeted it. Then the Whitney Museum tweeted it. And then basically it exploded. It completely exploded. And within 3 hours, it had been published in over 24 different countries and 200 different outlets. And that sounds like a good problem to have until you are actually in the middle of a client project and the phone keeps ringing and it's like CNN trying to ask you what this project is about. And like, I don't know, we just, Anton wanted to play with perspective. Shit, we should have a story about this. So basically they ended up, we just didn't even take most of the calls. We were like, we couldn't, literally the phone was ringing off the hook. It's just me and Anton in the studio. Like, we didn't have time to talk to all of these people, So my favorite quote or my favorite piece that was written was actually by CNN, and they wrote, luckily, it's all just a photo manipulation trick rather than an actual raid of New York's architecture. No shit, CNN. It's great news. Anyways, long story short, money in my world does not equal success. Most of these projects, we didn't make a whole lot of money. But every single one of these projects has been a huge success. So that's okay. It's totally okay. And as I mentioned, our work, 60% client work, 40% personal work. And at the end of the year, in the United States, April is tax season, right? I'm sure you guys, I don't know what your month of taxes is, but it's a nightmare because we're a small business and I have to talk to the accountant. And our accountant is this very old man called Wayne from New Jersey. And every year I have to talk to Wayne and I'm like, hey Wayne, how's it going? Yes, I did the books. Yes, can you make sure that our taxes are done? Thank you, Wayne. So he called me in a panic and he was like, Irene, what the hell is going on with your books? You guys, what are you spending all this money on? Like, you have barely any money coming in. You're spending all of this money. Like, clearly something is really wrong with your business model. Like, I don't understand. And he was like berating me, And I was like, Wayne, it's fine. Let me just explain to you, like, these are all projects that, are like our passion projects, So it's fine. It's not like we're losing the money. We're just investing it, And he was like, all right, well, listen, in order for me to help guide you guys, you need to give me an understanding of how you run your business, because otherwise I can't help you here. So tomorrow, please, when you call, give me a little presentation of where you spent the money and how this works. Because then otherwise, like, I can't have you guys as a client, And I was like, ooh, Anton, Wayne just yelled at us. We should make a presentation. And he was like, okay, do whatever you need to do. And I was like, okay. So the next day I get on the call with Wayne and we're on Skype, so I see his face. And I'm like, all right, Wayne, here's our presentation about our business. So these are the 4 projects that we've been working on the past year. And this is our success matrix. So we think of it as money spent, money made, satisfaction, and then a bonus. So money spent, a lot for the watch, somewhat for One Shirt House, barely anything for Misplaced, and we only had to buy a bottle of champagne. But because our clients were in Sweden, we had to ship it, and it was like $1,200, which was a stupid idea, but that's what we spent for the One Shared House project. Money made. We don't know if we're going to make any money on the watch. We're kind of hoping we're going to make some money on the watch. We didn't make any money on One Shared House, didn't make any money on Misplaced, but we made some pretty good money on the IKEA project, so that's cool. Satisfaction. We're not really sure how we feel about the watch yet. I think it depends. We're a bit in crisis about it, actually. We loved working on One Shared House. It was great. And Anton really got to geek out on this photo project, so he was really happy about it. It was like his passion project. And we loved working on the IKEA project. They were a great client, and it's a cool project, so we're happy with that. Now, bonus. This watch can now be bought at the MoMA store in New York City, Tokyo, and soon Hong Kong. So they didn't pay us a whole lot to buy them. But it doesn't matter. It's in the MoMA store. It's in a museum. Our watch is in a museum. It's crazy. One Shared House was screened at Lincoln Center for 800 people. It was a sold-out audience in Lincoln Center in New York City, which was crazy. So we're super happy about that. Misplaced. Obviously, we got so much press, which we totally messed up and we should have dealt with much better. But now we have the direct contact information of all the journalists. So now every time we have a new project, we can say, hello, Mr. So-and-so from CNN. Remember us? You wrote a story about us. Well, let me tell you, we have a new project for your consideration. Would you like to write about it? And that's what we do now, because we have their direct email and their direct phone numbers. We don't have to go to info@cnn.com. Would you like to write about a project? No, we don't have to do that. And then One Shared House 2030 has been the most awarded project in our career. It has won every single design award in every single category. So great. And with that, Wayne looked at me and he said, all right, I think I understand now how you guys operate. We'll figure it out. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Irene. So when you first came to Thailand, came to Bangkok, what was the first thing that you want to redesign? Pad Thai?
No, Pad Thai is delicious.
Oh, okay.
Actually, can I tell you guys a secret? Okay, my very first visit in Bangkok was in the 90s when I was 17 years old. And I stayed, of all places, in Khao San Road. I got drunk and I got a tattoo. And it's still somewhere on my body. I will not show it to you. Don't ask me.
Okay, so thank you very much for your insight behind the design, and I like the way that you take us to the journey from your personal interest to a prototype and to something very, very great and original, okay? And thank you very much, Mr. Kamran, and I think that two of you share something in common, and one thing that is obvious to me is that you listen to fortune cookie. And you are superstitious. So maybe this is a secret behind the successful entrepreneur and the designer as well. So now this is the time for the Q&A session. Any questions for Mr. Kamran and Ms. Irene? Any microphone, ka?
Hello. Hi, Mr. Kamran. My name is Nuno. And from your talk, you mentioned a lot of the failures that you went through and all the pressures that you have. So you mentioned one thing which is really important to me is follow your heart. So I have a question is that what is your motivation and your drives that all your failures and whatnots makes you actually want to keep going forward again?
Well, a couple things I should mention. Irene was very kind and nice to say that in life you have to have successes, but yet she goes and follows her heart and doesn't care about the failure. Same thing is in innovation economy. We only talked about the 3 unicorns, but I started 10 companies, and 3 of them failed. And I got fired twice. How many of you have been fired before? 1. Who else has fired Who else has been fired before? Come on, one more, one more. Gentleman up there, give him a round of applause. I know. It takes a lot of guts to admit that you have been fired. And he's a hero on my side. Of course, Svetlana raised her hand. She's a hero in my heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't go and work with her at Harbor Space. But if you don't fail, you have not pushed yourself enough. That's a very key thing. If Irene wanted to just play it safe and just make money, she could have stayed in her previous job and work for big clients, do all of the things. But she wanted to break new boundaries. And through that process, you learn a lot about yourself. And don't be surprised if many times your abilities are 10 times more than what you think it is. I will share with you one very inspiring story that when I heard caused me to think completely different. The story of this young girl who goes with her mother to the zoo and sees this big, huge elephant. Big elephant. That is very sad because the big elephant is in captivity. The little girl says, "Mom, this elephant is so big, so powerful. There is a little chain around his neck, and there is only a small fence in front of him. All he has to do is yank his head, he can break the chain. He's so big he can jump over this and run away and be free. Why doesn't the elephant do that?" Mom says, "I don't know, you're right." They went and asked the zookeeper. Zookeeper said, 20 years ago, when we brought the elephant in here, it was a baby elephant. We put the chain around his neck, and this fence was so tall, it tried to run away every day. And it failed every day. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. After 30 days, it accepted the fact that he has failed. And he never, ever tried again. So even though he's so big and so powerful, in his head, he's still a baby elephant. And our society tells us that only a fool tries twice. You fail once, only a fool tries it a second time. So this elephant tried it 30 times and accepted for life, should never try it again. And when I heard this, when I was 16 years old, I said, I don't want to be that elephant. I will try it again and again. I will see. Each time I learn something, I improve that, and I try it again and again. And many times I found out that my ability was a lot more than I was willing to give credit to myself. We are the worst judge of our abilities, of our looks. Have you noticed some of your friends? This guy is very handsome guy, looks like a movie star. This lady looks beautiful, looks like a movie star. They go in front of the mirror. What do they say? "Oh my God, look at this pimple. I look so horrible." I said, "Look at me. Compared to me, you look like whatever." That's the way we are. We are always judging ourselves and looking for the worst thing. The moment we overcome our fear of failure and we try, we find out like that elephant that, hey, we can jump. We can be free. And it's a fantastic feeling. you notice how much enthusiasm she has. Even though a few of her projects have been very painful and have failed. But she learned about her abilities and unleashed her creativity. That was what I learned in everything that I did. So, did I succeed all the time? Hell no. I had a goal that I wanted to be an Olympic skier. I decided that when I reached 50. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have told you my age, but I'm still 39, you know, worried about that. But when I was 50, I went and I said, I want to be an Olympic skier. I talked to my coach, who was the former coach of Austrian Olympic team, and I said, help me, train me. And he said, you mean for Olympic skier for old people? I said, no, I want to ski against the young ones. He said, are you crazy? How could I train you for that? I said, you are crazy. I said, by age 100, I want to be Olympic skier. I'm giving you 50 years advance notice to train me. Well, I'm not there yet, but Svetlana has skied with me. I used to ski before this. Greens, the simplest thing. That was my ability. Then I learned to ski blues, double blues, black diamond. I'm at the level of black diamond, but my goal is to go to double black diamond. I'm not there yet, but through this process, has it been easy? No. Every sport I've tried to do, I have failed many times. Do you know how many times I have fallen and have had surgery? Any guesses? Almost. 14 surgeries. Top of my head to the bottom. I'm like Evel Knievel. I've broken so many body parts, so many things. But through this process, you learn a lot. So that's my passion. I follow something, set up a goal that I love, and in the process, I fail. I learn. Many times I succeed because, like that elephant, I'm a lot more powerful than I think I am. My dream right now, the project I'm working, is help create 10 million innovation jobs in 38 countries, in Africa, in Middle East, in Central Asia, and Southeast Asia. And through this process, in the last 4 years, I've had to establish relationship with key partners like Stanford University, like World Bank, but also new startups like Harbor Space. When I met Svetlana and I saw what she was thinking of, my first question to her was, are you crazy? You want to start a new university that costs between $50 to $100 million? She said, no. I'm going to start a university. I'm disrupting the concept of a university. That got my attention. A new way. And 4 years later, the Barcelona campus is doing great. It has come a long way. And now we are soon opening the second campus in Bangkok. Was it easy? She did not fall? Oh, God. Many, many times she fell. But she followed her dream and kept coming up with new ways. It hasn't been easy. She's driven. Lots of difficulties at times, but it's a lot of fun also. So that's what my current passion is, my current dream is, and hoping working with Harbor Space, we can help create some of those 10 million innovation jobs in South Asian countries through cooperation with UTCC in Bangkok. It's just the beginning. It's going to get much bigger, much more go to other campuses, and hopefully we can keep reinventing the concept of a university.
Wow, thank you very much.
Next question.
And we have another question ค่ะค่ะcould it be the last question? I'm so sorry.
Actually, we can't have just one last question. We need a young lady also to ask a question. So, young ladies in the audience, start to think. One of you has to volunteer, or either Irene or I select you. So, get prepared. But first, go ahead.
Thank you very much for today, for the UTCC that bring the incredible men and women here. And this is the first time for me to come at UTCC to meet both of you because I have the same heart as you guys. Actually, I have two questions. And the first question I want to ask you, Kamran, nowadays, once you own 10 or 10 more startup company and also 3 unicorns, actually you tell us in the last sentence that what is your next plan for the universities. But in my view, I want to know you that when you have everything, 3 unicorns and 10 tech startup, what is your the meaning in life during this time until your end of life?
Yeah, actually, it's a deep question. My life has been 5 stages. The first stage was to be a geek, be an engineer, learn the things, found out I wasn't such a good geek. So next stage was to become an entrepreneur, started 10 companies, 3 of them failed, 6 of them were successful. One of them is a zombie, we don't know what happens. That was the first 20 years of my life. Because remember, I started when I was 20, very young. Then the next 15 years was the third phase of my life. I was a global venture capitalist, had a $350 million fund, invested in high-tech companies in US, Japan, China, India, Israel, and Singapore. That was between 1999 to 2014. The fourth phase of my life was philanthropy. My wife and I, 22 years ago, gave majority of our money, almost all of it, to our foundation. And we had some huge projects using power of technology to go and work in education of the youth and empowerment of women. Our first project was called Schools Online. We worked in donating computers, providing training to the teachers, pay for the cost of the internet in 6,400 schools in 36 countries between 1996 to 2003. In 2003, we started to work in refugee camps. We merged with Relief International. My wife was on the board of that. I became chairman of both organizations. We grew this to become a huge project. We worked in 25 countries, had 2,000 employees, and our annual budget was $45 million. That was when the United Nations invited me to go and become co-chair of UN GATE, United Nations Global Alliance for Use of ICT in Development. So through my UN work, I got to meet presidents, vice presidents, prime ministers, kings, sheikhs, sultans, name it, of all these different countries, some very bad people, many of them dictators. A few were also good, and that was when I was convinced that we really need to use the power of technology to empower the next generation, young girls and boys, to go and learn how to make money and take the power away from a lot of these old men who were not such a good leaders. So that's my secret project. I've been working on it quite a bit, and our goal is to help create 10 million innovation jobs in 38 countries across Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Central Asia.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, which
And
lady?
next.
No, hold on. We are short of time. I want to hear, you can ask me that. I want to hear from a young lady. One young lady who is, okay, get up and, which young lady is standing up?
Did I call? Can I ask you?
Well, can we, before we listen to him, he's young and he's a nice gentleman, but I want to have first a young lady from your students ask a question, then you can ask. Come on. I want to hear from a young lady because it's important. Young ladies create the next Svetlanas, create the next Irenes. Where is Emmy? Okay. All right, good. Ask your question. Stand up, introduce yourself. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Ja, and I'm a mother of 3 children, all boys. And then I'm currently running a website for mother and kids called mumbystreet.com.
Okay, before she starts, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
In the innovation economy, it's very important for you not to be shy. You have to have the courage. The first step is to have courage. Irene did not become Irene till she overcome her shyness. And she developed courage to overcome that. Svetlana did not become a Svetlana. It is very important for all young boys and girls to have courage. We will get to you. I appreciate you wanting to ask a question. Please.
Okay, so before I quit my job and doing this website, I was a consultant in Deloitte Consulting. I worked in Thailand, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Then after I had 3 babies, and then we decided to quit our jobs and then do something good for the society, which is a website where mothers who finish using products and items for babies, they can come to sell so then they can make money and pleasure, and they can share good things to other moms as well. So the question that I want to ask you is that now we want to find good, like highly skilled people to work for us. So the question is, how could you convince those for developers or programmers that come to join you in your new business, your company?
That's a great question, and the answer to that is it's very hard to do that. Because believe it or not, people like me or developers, they get people like you asking them many, many times, I have a great idea, but I don't have a whole lot of money to pay you, so do you want to work for me? And the answer is often no, right? So luckily, there's 2 things that you can do. Number 1, we live now in an era where you don't really need developers that much anymore. There's so many great out-of-the-box solutions, from e-commerce to design to templates, where you can create your own website that runs, that takes payments, that does a lot of things without ever having to pay one developer. That's the world we live in now, which is amazing. So you can do Squarespace, for example, add a payment to that, and boom, you have a website basically for free without having to pay a single developer. That's option number 1. Option number 2, and that's the only other way you can do it, is to go into your own network. Because every single person I've ever worked with, or every single person who's ever hired, has been someone that I either know, or someone who recommended me, or someone who was recommended by me. Nobody in my world works for complete strangers, unless you get paid really well, right? That's the only other carrot you can offer. So the more of a network you have, the more people you know who are in that world, the better your chances are that you can get that stuff done. So, for example, are there any web conferences ever in Bangkok where you could go and you could meet these people? You could listen to their keynotes and get into that world. Are there meetups here in Bangkok for creative communities where you could go and have a coffee or have lunch or just go and meet some people? I'm sure, 100% sure, that these things exist in Bangkok because they exist in every big city in the world. So once you're in that community and you know that community and you know the people personally, it will be a lot easier to convince them to help you out, because otherwise, why would they, right? They don't know who you are. There's no reason. So those are really the only two ways that you can get it off the ground in that sense.
I will give you a disruptive answer also. How is your business set up right now?
So we currently have about 5, full time with us, we're about 5 people, and then we're running like 1 developer, 2 to 3 designers, and then us.
Are you giving shares of your company to all of your people?
We're planning to, but not at this stage yet. Yeah.
I would encourage as a disruption. Innovation economy is very different than speculation economy. On speculation economy, capitalism 1.0, 1 or 2 people on the top own all of the shares, and they don't share the shares of the company with anyone else. In innovation economy, you create typically organization like a corporation, and you issue shares. I believe that this kind of a thing should be possible in one way or another. You can go to some of these venture capital gatherings to talk with them. I'm not expert in the laws in here, but I have seen a number of high-tech startups that come, and if you want the best people, 2 ways you can attract them. One is to give them cash. Another way is to convince them that, hey, your business has a big future, and give a lot of capable people shares of your company as a corporation shares. And these shares can have what we call vesting period on them. So you could say, I need your resources, your help for the next 1 year. You can make it so that each month that they help you, they get 1/12 of whatever number of shares that they should. So if they didn't finish the job, you haven't given them too many shares. And one big concept that you have to learn is, don't look at you are losing control. Don't look at your percentage ownership is going down. Look at, if you manage to get very talented engineers, designers working with you, the size of the pie gets so much bigger than when you had 100% ownership. The pie was small, but if you get a lot of capable people and this size of the pie becomes 10 times bigger, but your ownership drops from 100% to 60% or 50% or 40%, that's okay. Wouldn't you prefer to have 1% of Apple computer or 100% of a tiny company? Apple is such a huge pie, 1% of that is worth a lot more than a company that is just 2 people do everything themselves. So read about it, talk to the investors. Innovation economy is not based on 2 people creating a company as a partnership. It's based on a different concept of a corporation that you issue shares. You can give shares as common shares versus preferred shares. These are some new concepts that VCs typically learn before they start to invest in you. But look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we had, just 1 second, we had promised this nice gentleman, young gentleman, to ask a question, then we come back to you for the second question. Here we go.
Okay. I am Thanon Sirisinthanakun. I am mere simple student from College of Entrepreneurship. So my question is, according to your study and my inferior English hearing is, you say the VC is hard to find, and so can you give us a tiny detail about this? Like, how do you find them? How and where and when do you find them? Like this, and what exactly and actually they require from you before they giving you the money?
Very good question. Where do you find investors? He's asking the questions that I was asking when I was starting my first company. I have given talk in conferences like Texas, Startup Grind. I highly recommend that you go and participate on those. Usually they're free or cost very little money. Big conferences they are. You go there and you will meet 5, 10, 20, sometimes 30 or more. Some local VCs, some regional VCs who come to these conferences in Bangkok, and you will see a lot of startups that are having this pitching contest, and you will learn a lot. But as a high level, the typical investor right now does not invest in early stage, like idea. They usually invest in later stage when your company has had some revenue, has had some traction, okay? But there are another group of investors called angel investors. They are called angels because they don't ask as many questions as venture capitalists. Venture capitalists are very much more professional. They ask a lot more operating history. Angel investors are a bit more flexible, and depending on which one of them you work with or how they operate, some of them, if they like you, they might give you small money to get you started. One of the things that I've been advocating with the Chamber of Commerce is to help create a small fund that gives small money, $5,000, $10,000, to a lot of young people who want to start companies, and have this as a way that in a practical way, you learn how to start company as a loan. And you have to work hard to make your company successful so that you can pay back the loan. And if your company was successful so that it became really attracting bigger money, then your loan gets converted to equity, and the investor can make a lot of money since you are going to make a lot of money. So it's called convertible loan. But if the company fails, which many of the young companies do, you do not go to jail, you do not go through bankruptcy court or any of those. Your loan will be forgiven. Why? Because during this process, if you created jobs for yourself and 2, 3, 4 other people, that is pushing economy becoming higher, and it's helping the economy of Thailand. So that's what we are talking to the members of Chamber of Commerce to help create this kind of a thing, to help create many innovation jobs in Thailand. So hopefully it will move forward. Thank you for your courage and standing up, asking a good question.
And I think we... Oh, okay. So, well, yes, on behalf of the university and on behalf of the audience here today, so we would like to thank you, both of our speakers, for insightful and very interesting, intriguing talks today. So please give them another round of applause and...